Then the doctor told me to take the wheel while he made a little calculation with his map and worked out what new course we should take. I shall have to run for the Kappa Blancas after all, he told me when the seaman's back was turned. Dreadful nuisance. But I'd sooner swim back to Puddleby than have to listen to that fellow's talk all the way to Brazil. Indeed, he was a terrible person, this Ben Butcher. You'd think that any one after being told he wasn't wanted would have had the decency to keep quiet. But not Ben Butcher. He kept going round the deck pointing out all the things we had wrong. According to him, there wasn't a thing right on the whole ship. The anchor was hitched up wrong, the hatches weren't fastened down properly, the sails were put on back to front, all our knots were the wrong kind of knots. At last the doctor told him to stop talking and go downstairs. He refused, said he wasn't going to be sunk by landlubbers while he was still able to stay on deck. This made us feel a little uneasy. He was such an enormous man, there was no knowing what he might do if he got really obstreperous. Bumpo and I were talking about this downstairs in the dining saloon, when Polynesia, Jip and Chi-Chi came and joined us. And, as usual, Polynesia had a plan. Listen, she said, I am certain this Ben Butcher is a smuggler and a bad man. I am a very good judge of seamen, remember, and I don't like the cut of this man's jib. Do you really think, I interrupted, that it is safe for the doctor to cross the Atlantic without any regular seamen on his ship? You see, it had upset me quite a good deal to find that all the things we had been doing were wrong, and I was beginning to wonder what might happen if we ran into a storm, particularly as Miranda had only said the weather would be good for a certain time, and we seemed to be having so many delays. But Polynesia merely tossed her head scornfully. Oh, bless you, my boy, said she, you're always safe with John Dolittle. Remember that. Don't take any notice of that stupid old salt. Of course it is perfectly true the doctor does do everything wrong. But with him it doesn't matter. Mark my words, if you travel with John Dolittle you always get there, as you heard him say. I've been with him lots of times, and I know. Sometimes the ship is upside down when you get there, and sometimes it's right way up. But you get there just the same. And then of course there's another thing about the doctor, she added thoughtfully. He always has extraordinary good luck. He may have his troubles, but with him things seem to have a habit of turning out all right in the end. I remember once when we were going through the Straits of Magellan, the wind was so strong. But what are we going to do about Ben Butcher? Jip put in. You had some plan, Polynesia, hadn't you? Yes. What I'm afraid of is that he may hit the doctor on the head when he's not looking and make himself captain of the Curlew. Bad sailors do that sometimes. Then they run the ship their own way and take it where they want. That's what you call a mutiny. Yes, said Jip, and we ought to do something pretty quick. We can't reach the Kappa Blancas before the day after tomorrow at best. I don't like to leave the doctor alone with him for a minute. He smells like a very bad man to me. Well, I've got it all worked out, said Polynesia. Listen, is there a key in that door? We looked outside the dining room and found that there was. All right, said Polynesia. Now Bumpo lays the table for lunch and we all go and hide. Then at 12 o'clock Bumpo rings the dinner bell. Down here, As soon as Ben hears it he'll come down expecting more salt beef. Bumpo must hide behind the door outside. The moment that Ben is seated at the dining table, Bumpo slams the door and locks it. Then, we've got him. See, how strategious. Bumpo chuckled. As Cicero said, parrots cum. Parishioners facialime congregation. I'll lay the table at once. Yes, and take that Worcestershire sauce off the dresser with you when you go out, said Polynesia. Don't leave any loose eatables around. That fellow has had enough to last any man for 3 days. Besides, he won't be so inclined to start a fight when we put him ashore at the Kappa Blanca's if we thin him down a bit before we let him out. So we all went and hid ourselves in the passage where we could watch what happened. And presently Bumpo came to the foot of the stairs and rang the dinner bell like mad. Then he hopped behind the dining room door and we all kept still and listened. Almost immediately, thump, 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 down the stairs tramped Ben Butcher, the able seaman. He walked into the dining saloon, sat himself down at the head of the table in the doctor's place, tucked a napkin under his fat chin and heaved a sigh of expectation. Then, bang, Bumpo slammed the door and locked it. That settles him for a while, said Polynesia coming out from her hiding place. Now let him teach navigation to the sideboard. Gosh, the cheek of the man. I've forgotten more about the sea than that lumbering lout will ever know. Let's go upstairs and tell the doctor. Bumpo, you will have to serve the meals in the cabin for the next couple of days. And bursting into a rollicking Norwegian sea song, she climbed up to my shoulder and we went on deck. We remained 3 days in the Kappa Blanca Islands. There were 2 reasons why we stayed there so long when we were really in such a hurry to get away. One was the shortage in our provisions caused by the able seaman's enormous appetite. When we came to go over the stores and make a list, we found that he had eaten a whole lot of other things besides the beef. And having no money, we were sorely puzzled how to buy more. The doctor went through his trunk to see if there was anything he could sell, but the only thing he could find was an old watch with the hands broken and the back dented in, and we decided this would not bring us in enough money to buy much more than a pound of tea. Bumpo suggested that he sing comic songs in the streets which he had learned in Jolliginki, but the doctor said he did not think that the islanders would care for African music. The other thing that kept us was the bullfight. In these islands, which belonged to Spain, they had bullfights every Sunday. It was on a Friday that we arrived there, and after we had got rid of the able seaman we took a walk through the town. It was a very funny little town, quite different from any that I had ever seen. The streets were all twisty and winding and so narrow that a wagon could only just pass along them. The houses overhung at the top, and came so close together that people in the attics could lean out of the windows and shake hands with their neighbors on the opposite side of the street. The doctor told us the town was very, very old. It was called Monteverde. As we had no money, of course we did not go to a hotel or anything like that. But on the second evening when we were passing by a bed maker's shop we noticed several beds, which the man had made, standing on the pavement outside. The doctor started chatting in Spanish to the bed maker who was sitting at his door, whistling to a parrot in a cage. The doctor and the bed maker got very friendly, talking about birds and things. And as it grew near to supper time, the man asked us to stop and sup with him. This of course we were very glad to do. And after the meal was over, very nice dishes they were, mostly cooked in olive oil. I particularly liked the fried bananas. We sat outside on the pavement again and went on talking far into the night. At last, when we got up to go back to our ship, this very nice shopkeeper wouldn't hear of our going away on any account. He said the streets down by the harbor were very badly lighted and there was no moon. We would surely get lost. He invited us to spend the night with him and go back to our ship in the morning. Well, we finally agreed. And as our good friend had no spare bedrooms, the three of us, the doctor, Bumpo and I, slept on the beds set out for sale on the pavement before the shop. The night was so hot we needed no coverings. It was great fun to fall asleep out of doors like this, watching the people walking to and fro and the gay life of the streets. It seemed to me that Spanish people never went to bed at all. Late as it was, all the little restaurants and cafes around us were wide open, with customers drinking coffee and chatting merrily at the small tables. Outside, the sound of a guitar strumming softly in the distance mingled with the clatter of chinaware and the babble of voices. Somehow it made me think of my mother and father far away in Puddleby, with their regular habits, the evening practice on the flute and the rest, doing the same thing every day. I felt sort of sorry for them in a way, because they missed the fun of this traveling life, where we were doing something new all the time, even sleeping differently. But I suppose if they had been invited to go to bed on a pavement in front of a shop, they wouldn't have cared for the idea at all. It is funny how some people are.